Hello and thank you for joining us in our bulletins this Sunday morning. Welcome to the newscast. My name is Dai Chang and here check out the headlines. Heavy rainfall and floods hit many provinces in northern Vietnam. Vietnam and the United States are close to concluding bilateral TPP negotiations. And the first ever survey on the socio-economic situation of 53 ethnic communities in 2015 kicked off. We're going to begin with some current news. Dense rainfall and possible floods are hitting many provinces in the northern region of Vietnam. As one of the worst affected localities, Tân Giao district in Điện Biên province suffered a heavy downpour at first light on Saturday. Floods destroyed hundreds of houses and public buildings and swept away the possessions of local residents. Torrential rain is forecast to continue hitting northern provinces until the 3rd of August. There is high risk of flooding, according to the National Center for Hydrometeorological Forecasting. Hanoi is forecast to suffer from rain and thunderstorms at any time during the 3-day stretch. Due to heavy rainfall and floods, all activities at Hòn Gai Cẩm Phả Port in Quảng Ninh province had to be halted, disrupting the coal supply for the two thermal power plants, Duyên Hải 1 and Vĩnh Tân 2. The Vietnam National Coal and Mineral Industries Corporation will focus on reconstructing the supply routes and prioritize the coals for two aforementioned thermal power plants. However, in order to ensure adequate supply of electricity to the national grid, Electricity of Vietnam or EVN will have to look to alternative electricity sources for the time being. I call upon people to use power economically to reduce pressure on the power supply. In other news, Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP negotiators wrapped up their most recent round of talks in Hawaii on Friday local time without reaching an agreement on what would be the 12-country pact that encompasses some 40% of the world's economy. Despite the progress made, tough issues such as pharmaceuticals, cars and dairy continue to block a deal after 4 days of discussion. Speaking with the press, U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman said all countries involved will continue to negotiate both bilaterally and multilaterally to conclude the trade agreement. However, there is not yet a specific plan for the next round of talks. Negotiations among the 12 nations involved in the Trans-Pacific Partnership have been underway for years, and the deal was thought to be close to completion.
With eliminating barriers to trade.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership or TPP negotiators in Hawaii have failed to reach an agreement. However, Vietnam has succeeded in some aspects, especially in bilateral negotiations with the United States. VTV correspondents bring you more in the following.
In this last stage of negotiations, Vietnam has concluded talks with 11 other member countries, including the United States.
I think the kind of work that we've been doing together and why this is so important for U.S.-Vietnam relations is that our leaders have come together and laid out a joint vision for our relationship, and making progress on TPP like we've done here this week and ultimately concluding a TPP agreement is very much consistent with implementing that vision.
The achievement in TPP bilateral negotiations between Vietnam and the United States comes down to ceaseless efforts of the two countries' negotiators and, more importantly, the political goodwill set by the leaders of both sides.
With the U.S., we have completed almost all TPP-related agreements. As such, Vietnam and the U.S. can work out a deal in all trade issues, which is expected to strengthen bilateral cooperation in economics, investment, and trade in the future.
I continue to be enormously impressed with the Vietnamese negotiating team and the creativity that they bring to the table and their willingness as the the poorest or the least developed country at the table to continue to take on some of the greatest challenges of a 21st century economy and to help define rules for the 21st century economy.
The detailed contents of agreements in TPP negotiations will not be released until the TPP is officially signed. However, the progress made by Vietnam and the U.S. reflects a comprehensive and high-standard TPP agreement that will support economic growth between the two countries.
Now, on the 31st of July, the Japan Business Federation, OK Dangren, and the Ho Chi Minh City authorities jointly hosted an investment promotion forum with the participation of 25 Japanese enterprises. This is one of many recent activities of Japanese businesses in Ho Chi Minh City, which has attracted the most foreign investment in Vietnam in the last 7 months.
Among 800 operational FDI projects in Ho Chi Minh City, the number of Japanese businesses is the highest. Japanese investors are said to be demanding. However, given the rising number of Japanese enterprises in recent months, Ho Chi Minh City is still an attractive destination.
We think that the city can offer many opportunities, so we bring our enterprises here. After this trip, we hope more projects will come to fruition.
25 Japanese enterprises participating in this forum agree that investing in Vietnam will open the gateway to the ASEAN. Vietnam's role will become even more important once the ASEAN Economic Community and the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement become real. Ho Chi Minh City currently has 17 export processing zones and industrial zones. To prepare for a new wave of Japanese investment, the city intends to establish 7 new industrial zones with total area of 2,000 hectares. The city also commits to simplify and publicize investment procedures, as well as digitize administrative systems.
Ho Chi Minh City has set up an investor assisting team, including the Japan desk and Kansai desk, to help Japanese investors with administrative procedures, tax payments, customs, and investment registrations.
Japan Business Federation's visit to Ho Chi Minh City is seen as a sign of a new surge in FDI in the near future.
State Bank Governor Nguyễn Văn Bình visited the central province of Nghệ An on Saturday to review the implementation of the government's Decree 67. After exactly 1 year in effect, the decree on credit support to build offshore vessels has reaped modest benefits for fishermen in Nghệ An. Only 6 new wooden hull fishing boats have been built with loans from commercial banks and no steel hull high-capacity vessels yet. The province is currently facing a shortage of offshore fishing vessels, resulting in a subpar performance from the local fisheries sector. The State Bank Governor requested that authorities and banks work together to raise the loans disbursement under Decree 67. Coming up next, the first ever survey on the socio-economic situation of 53 ethnic communities in Vietnam in 2015 kicked off. And the motto United Nations or MUN offers opportunity for Vietnamese youth to learn more about global issues. Stay tuned.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back. Now, the first ever survey on the socio-economic situation of 53 ethnic communities across Vietnam in 2015 kicked off in Yên Bái province on Saturday. Accordingly, the main respondents to the survey are families of ethnic communities with a population of less than 10,000. Interview questions will focus on living conditions, accessibility of services, marital status, and issues relating to reproductive health. The survey will be conducted by 30,000 staff members in more than 30,000 areas nationwide. The results are expected to be a basis for the government to work out particular development plans for ethnic communities. The project is scheduled to wrap up on August the 31st. Now, a flag-raising ceremony for 2 new submarines was solemnly conducted on Saturday at Cam Ranh military port in the central coastal province of Khánh Hòa. The new Kilo-class submarines mark a new development of the Vietnam People's Navy in particular and the Vietnam People's Army in general. They are expected to play an important role in safeguarding the country's sovereignty over sea and land. The HQ-184 Hải Phòng and HQ-185 Khánh Hòa are 2 out of the 6 Kilo-class submarines that Vietnam ordered from Russia. Last year, Russia handed over the HQ-182 Hanoi and HQ-183 Ho Chi Minh City submarines to Vietnam. Now, Model United Nations, or MUN, is familiar activity for students all over the world. An MUN conference was held for the 2nd time in Vietnam with the topic Globalization, Promises and Pitfalls. This is an opportunity for Vietnamese youth to learn more about the UN and global issues, as well as to improve their language and presentation skills.
Model United Nations is an activity in which students typically role-play as delegates to the United Nations and simulate UN committees, such as the Crisis Security Council and the United Nations Development Programme. The activity aims to expose students to international issues and familiarize them with the operations of the UN.
MUN is an educational activity that has existed for a long time in foreign countries. This year's topics, as you say, is globalization, promises and pitfalls. Through this topic, the program aims to show the youth that globalization comes with both benefits and consequences. Participating in MUN, I feel like it's a learning process for myself. Not only did I gain a lot of knowledge on politics and economics, but my research, debate and comment skills also improved.
This year's MUN conference attracted hundreds of participants. They had the opportunity to exchange with the speakers, all of whom are veteran diplomats and experienced journalists.
The youth are the future generation, and we always welcome them to contribute to the prosperity of the country. I believe all of the good ideas brought forward today will be considered by the government.
At the simulated seminar, the students played the role of delegates representing countries at the UN Forum, negotiating and solving problems directly related to national interests and world peace. The activity also helped the young people become more aware of their responsibility in regards to social issues.
1 gold and 3 silver medals were awarded to 4 Vietnamese students at the 2015 International Olympiad in Informatics, or IOI, in Kazakhstan. With these outstanding performances, the Vietnamese team ranked 8th among 84 participating squads from all around the globe, taking the lead in the Southeast Asian region. According to the Ministry of Education and Training, this is the highest ranking that Vietnam has recorded at an informatics Olympiad since 2000. The first held in 1989, the annual event is one of the most prestigious computer science competitions for students in the world. In December 2000, the U.S. Congress approved the establishment of the Vietnam Education Foundation, or VEF. The Scholarship Foundation has been operating as an independent organization under the U.S. government's management, reporting directly to the U.S. President and Congress. Officially operational since 2003, the VEF has been a bridge to help hundreds of Vietnamese students and researchers study in the prestigious U.S. universities.
Professor Mary Lou Sofa is working for Virginia University. Together with 9 other professors from U.S. universities, she's visiting Vietnam to select students for higher education scholarship programs granted by the Vietnam Education Foundation, or VEF. In addition, the professors also attend communication activities to support Vietnamese students in pursuing studies in the U.S.
Our professors are all in fields of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But the advice given by the professors could be applied to many other graduate programs.
With a yearly budget of $5 million, the VEF has granted scholarships for over 600 Vietnamese students and researchers. The research concentration areas cover fundamental science, technology, engineering, and medicine.
The people who created VEF believe that science and technology are the most important field of studies that will help with the modernization of Vietnam. And so the development of Vietnam, they will need a lot of scientists. Students who come to the United States to study these fields will be able to come back to Vietnam and contribute to the development of Vietnam.
Besides scholarships for master's and PhD courses, the VEF also invited 34 professors from the U.S. to come to Vietnam and lecture at 26 Vietnamese universities. The VEF's establishment and achievements over the last 12 years are considered a highlight in Vietnam's U.S. cooperation.
The VEF program has been proven effective. Lecturers and students from universities and research institutions are selected carefully. Most of them have come back after their study programs, while some of them are continuing further research studies.
Education and training has been one of 4 priorities in the comprehensive partnership between Vietnam and the U.S. With over 17 million students, Vietnam is the ASEAN country with the largest number of foreign exchange students to the U.S.
Now, the Embassy of Peru in Vietnam hosted a Peruvian cuisine week for the first time from the 27th to the 31st of July as part of activities celebrating Peruvian Independence Day. The following report will introduce you to the colorful cuisine of this South American country.
Peruvian food is widely known as one of the world's most healthy cuisines. Ceviche is a popular dish of the country. Being cooked without heat, the fish retains all of its nutrients.
Ceviche in Peru is as popular as noodles and rice in Vietnam. We cook it whenever we feel happy. Think of ceviche as a typical trait in Peruvian culture.
According to Peruvian chefs at the event, a strict selection of the freshest ingredients and a strong passion for cooking are important factors in making a delicious dish.
What I learned from the cooks is that as long as we put our love into the dish that we make, it will be really delicious. We hope this culinary week will help more Vietnamese people learn about Peruvian cuisine and learn how to cook Peruvian food with Vietnamese ingredients. At the same time, I will learn more about Vietnamese food to apply to our cuisine. It will be an interesting fusion.
The 2-hour cooking demonstration impressed guests with a vast and colorful range of dishes. It served to further boost cultural exchange between the 2 countries.
And now it's time to look at the highlights of this week's news.
A serious flash flood triggered by torrential rains hit the northern coastal province of Quảng on July the 25th. According to the local authorities, the heaviest downpour in 40 years killed 18 people and damaged 3,700 local houses, schools, hospitals, and medical stations. The total damage has amounted to nearly 70 million US dollars. The heavy rain has also ruined a local coal industry and left thousands of tourists stranded on Koto Island. Local authorities have been stepping up repairing efforts and is calling for more donations from different sources to help the locals recover from the disaster.
British Prime Minister David Cameron paid an official two-day visit to Vietnam from July 29th to 30th at the invitation of Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng. During his visit, British Prime Minister David Cameron was received by the Vietnam Communist Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng and State President Trương Tấn Sang. At the reception, party leader Nguyễn Phú Trọng highly appreciated the active development of Vietnam and Britain bilateral relations, especially since the two countries established a strategic partnership in September 2010. Prime Minister David Cameron, in response, thanked the host for their warm welcome on his first official visit to Vietnam. British Prime Minister David Cameron then went on to meet with the Ho Chi Minh City leaders and joined Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc in a business seminar held in the city. The seminar aimed to discuss measures to enhance business competitiveness and business activities transparency. This was the first official visit to Vietnam by a British Prime Minister since the two countries established diplomatic ties in 1973. This visit is also said to help Britain establish economic cooperation with the fastest growing middle class in the Southeast Asia.
Deputy Prime Minister Phạm Bình Minh paid an official visit to Japan from July 29th to 31st at the invitation of Japan Foreign Minister Fumio Kishida. The Deputy Prime Minister met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on July 30th in Tokyo. At the meeting, Deputy Prime Minister Minh affirmed that Vietnam considered Japan as a leading strategic business partner. He added that Vietnam was ready to boost the deep strategic partnership with Japan in various fields. Prime Minister Abe also expressed his hope to strengthen the deep strategic partnership with Vietnam in the coming time.
Deputy Prime Minister cum Foreign Minister Phạm Bình Minh chaired a ceremony on Tuesday to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Vietnam's membership of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN. The event also served to honor the bloc's formation 48 years ago, on August 8, 1967. The Deputy Prime Minister said the formation of the ASEAN Economic Community at the end of this year will have a significant impact on all member states and the region. He said that based on the pillars of politics, security, economics, and culture, the ASEAN community will improve the solidarity of the people, help reduce tension and disputes, and build peace and cooperation and development in the region. He emphasized that over the past 2 decades, ASEAN has been a top priority in Vietnam's foreign policy.
The 4th Viet Pride Festival takes place in Hanoi from July the 20th to August the 2nd. Themed We Are Queer, We Are Here, this year's event aims to promote visibility and awareness of LGBT people in public spaces such as the workplace, cafes, parks, and on the streets. The 4-day event will include activities centered on different aspects of the LGBT community. They include a research presentation on the life of LGBT youth in Vietnam, a talk about coming out, and advice for LGBT people and their parents. 4 moving and thought-provoking films will also be screened, and a wild party-themed queer disco night will be held. To top it off, Viet Pride's annual bike parade will take place on August the 2nd.
And as usual, just before we conclude our bulletin, let's take a look at our updated weather forecast for Vietnam and some cities around the world. The weather forecast has just wrapped up this live edition of VTV News. If you want to see us more on our next newscast, just tune in or visit our websites at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. Once again, thank you for joining us, and this is VTV News, brought to you by VTV International.